Welcome in, everybody. So today I want to talk about, obviously, Nancy Guthrie. From the Everybody knows by now who Nancy Guthrie is. The entire internet is aware of who she is. She's an 84-year-old woman from the Tucson, Arizona area who is unfortunately missing. Law enforcement is treating this as a serious criminal investigation, as a kidnapping and or abduction, and this is not considered a voluntary disappearance. Authorities have publicly stated that the circumstances at her home have raised obvious red flags and pointed away from a simple walk-away scenario. Evidence collected at the scene has suggested that she did not leave on her own. There's surveillance footage from the front of her home, which has been reviewed, some of it released to the public, of a masked individual on the property around the time that she is believed to have disappeared. Local and federal agencies are involved. Nancy's blood has been confirmed to be found outside of her home, and the family has made public appeals for information and for her safe return that have been scrutinized by the public, which is really, really sad in this type of situation. There have been several raids performed by SWAT. Several people have been detained, yet no one has been arrested. There have been no suspects announced, and no one has been formally charged. Nancy has not been found. There have been several demands for ransom via cryptocurrency. One arrest for a false ransom demand was made. There's been no further updates on the other ransom demands that were received by TMZ, which in of itself is really, really odd that TMZ would get them and not the family. So that's the confirmed information that we have. Everything beyond that is still unfolding. There's no conclusive evidence, and everything is rather messy. So let's walk through the possible angles people are discussing. Now, these are clearly labeled as possibilities, not conclusions. They're speculation in their theory. They're nothing that is factual, at least that we know of. So one possibility, and this is the one that I actually find to be the most interesting because of the style of what's happened. So there's something that's called a wrench attack style crime, which is a coercive extortion plan where somebody will use a home invasion, they'll use abduction or violence to force money compliance or access to assets, usually linked to cryptocurrency. Now, this seems like that would be far-fetched and it's, way out there, but it's really not that far-fetched. It's not theoretical. January 31st, 2026 in Scottsdale, Arizona. Same date, same state. There is a case that has unfolded that fits this pattern. Two teens out of California traveled 600 miles, broke into a home, restrained and assaulted the occupants, attempted to force access what they believed was a large cryptocurrency stash of approximately $66 million. Again, this was two teenagers that did this. They were contacted through an app called Signal to carry out this plan, and they were paid $1,000 each to do it. They used the ruse of being delivery drivers, had zip ties and similar items for abduction and restraint, as well as a 3D printed gun with them. There's also analysis being reported of multiple violent extortion incidents worldwide, just in 2026 alone, involving home invasions, physical coercion tied to perceived crypto wealth. Now, that to me is where that becomes very, very interesting, because people don't really look at the dangers maybe of having that crypto wealth if they think that it's untraceable to steal. As far as we, the public, know, none of these incidents are linked to this case. Law enforcement has not said that there's any connection. I haven't actually heard anybody question anything along these lines. Yet I believe that could be an investigative lead, not an established link, but a possibility among many. So it's not a verdict, just a theory. Another angle people keep circulating is Savannah Guthrie's public profile. Now, Savannah Guthrie is Nancy Guthrie's daughter. Savannah reported on high profile abuse cases, namely the Epstein case. Because her work has touched powerful and uncomfortable systems, some people immediately jump to narratives about regulation or silencing. There's no current or public evidence or law enforcement statement tying any past reporting to this abduction. This is part of online speculation, so it's not confirmed as an investigative fact. But given her status, the case, and the cases that she has worked on, this theory naturally makes sense for people to think about. Third angle that I've heard get dragged into this conversation is the political background of Savannah Guthrie's husband, who previously worked in the Clinton Gore White House. In internet logic, any connection to politics becomes a magnet for conspiracy theories. Conspiracies seem to revolve around the Clintons. Considering this and the Epstein files, again, this makes sense for speculation to run wild. To be very clear, there is no evidence or official indication that his past political role has anything to do with this case. This, again, is speculation, not substantiated connections. Another angle that predictably surfaces online is the idea of inside involvement or family betrayal. This shows up in almost every high profile disappearance. When answers are scarce, people look for a villain to make the story feel solvable. To be clear, there is no public evidence and no law enforcement indication that any family member is involved in this case. And yet the public has chosen the two people they want to pick out and target, which is just wrong. Until anybody knows what happened, nobody should be targeted. This is still a family going through a tragedy. People react unpredictably during times of stress. To be clear, there is no public evidence and no law enforcement indication that any family member is involved in the disappearance of Nancy. These claims exist online, but they are speculation, not fact, and reporting them risks harming the people who may already be living through their worst nightmare. And then there's the least dramatic possibility, random crime of opportunity. Most violent crimes are not elaborate conspiracies. They are chaotic, opportunistic, and senseless. Random doesn't mean meaningless. It means someone was unlucky in the worst possible way. It's the explanation people resist because it doesn't feel satisfying. It doesn't provide content. It doesn't bring in clicks and views. But statistically, it's the most common reality. So in the end, here's the part that matters. When we rush to attach every tragedy to powerful enemies, trending scandals, or dramatic narratives, we don't help victims. We turn investigations into entertainment. We turn real people into story props and muddy the waters in ways that can actively interfere with accountability and truth. So the responsible posture in this, multiple investigative lanes can exist at the same time. Coercive extortion patterns can be acknowledged without being assumed. Public profile context can be noted without being weaponized. Political backgrounds can be mentioned without becoming conspiracy fuel. Family involvement narratives can be acknowledged without accusing anyone. And random crimes must stay on the table, even when it's not the story that people want. Until law enforcement confirms connections, these remain possibilities, not conclusions, and Nancy remains missing. This is honestly heartbreaking for her family, and I wish more people would understand that the more fodder that you put out online, the worse this could possibly turn out for Nancy. Every random lead that you place into somebody's head that they feel they need to call authorities on is time taken away from an actual investigation. So that is where I'm at with it. I just wanted to pop on real quick. I know everybody's been touching on this. I'm not going to restream people watching the street. To me, that seems ridiculous and counterproductive. We're all busy with all things to do. I did wanna jump on pretty much to say, yeah, there's multiple possibilities, but people need to stop with the huge theories and the online debacles that seem to be brought around these cases. To me, that's insane. It's insane. I don't understand why. Why? Go with the facts. There's very few of them. Go with the facts. Let the cops do their job. Let the FBI do their job. I don't understand why the case is blown up, um, other than possibly who her daughter is. But with that, I say that I am Lori Fax. Thank you for watching. And remember, common sense will always win over the common chaos that's out here. Have a good one.